And the way I see it, and the way the world sees it, Israel keeps breaking international law by stealing Palestinian land. And I don't want to give my money to Israel. I don't want to give it to Italy. I don't want to give it to anybody. And we're giving our money to these countries that are subjugating other people to these draconian life that they're leading by stealing what they have and making life harder for them. So it could happen in Iran. It could happen with Israel. The Middle East is the tinderbox, and of course, then there's Pakistan. I love it, Lou. Norway must be Orwell spelled backwards by giving Obama the Nobel Peace Prize. He's sending in more Predator drones into Pakistan and killing, alleged militants. What, all of a sudden the CIA becomes the judge, juror, and executioner? And you don't think there's going to be blowback from this? And since when did the CIA get its own aircraft and air force of bombing people in broad daylight? How can this be happening? You know why it's happening? It's fascism. Fascism is taking over America. So expect blowback from Pakistan because you have about 300,000 Pakistanis living in the United States. And if your family got blown up by a bomb sent over by the CIA, neighborhood destroyed, or you've been thrown out of your house like the millions have because of the proxy war being fought on behalf of the United States in the Swat Valley in South and North Waziristan, you'd think you'd be angry. But no, what's going to happen, Lou, when terror strikes, they're going to say, oh, they hate our freedom and liberty. Yeah. Try your foreign policy in slaughtering people.
Gerald, you're, of course, as usual, exactly right, but now your analysis of the situation is exactly on target. As I might say, it's always on target. So here's the average guy. He knows that he doesn't want to put money in a bank. As you say, the stock market is just a casino for the big boys. What do you try to do to protect yourself for all the troubles that are inevitably ahead?
Well, what I do, and I don't advise, one of the things, I don't tell people what to do, and I don't want anybody telling me what to do. I look at the facts, analyze them. If they have facts, I'll look at theirs, and I'll come to my conclusions. They could come to theirs. So speaking strictly for myself, as you well know, we forecast the bottom of gold in 2001. When it went down to 255, at 275 in the Trends Journal, we wrote it was the beginning of the gold bull run. We are projecting gold to go to $2,000. It could go way higher, but we think that that's going to be the limit because the world governments will do something to push the price down. So in the meantime, I keep buying gold. I'm 80% invested in gold, and for the people who can't afford gold, silver also seems like a very good play. Anything precious is worth much more than worthless paper. And precious metals, to me, won't lose their value, particularly over the long run. You look at the stock market, what is it, around 11,000? It's 1999 levels. Gold has gone up from, $275 to it hit $1,420. So the other aspect is I don't keep any money in the bank that I don't have to. And I also buy Swiss francs and Canadian dollars as a hedge against the dollar being devalued. And to me, the Swiss are the money cockroaches of the world. Whole World War II went on, and the criminals have to put their money someplace, and Switzerland is the safest bet. People are putting it in Singapore, but I don't trust Singapore because Singapore isn't Singapore, it's China.
Gerald, I followed Joe Salerno's advice to take your cash out of the bank. And I love it how hostile the banks are when you want to get your own money out in cash. I mean, one of the reasons I do it is because it makes it tougher for them to make loans. It's only on the margin, of course. There's only a tiny amount comparatively. They still hate it. I remember right after 9/11 what happened to you when you tried to take your own money in cash out of the bank.
Well, first thing was that I had it in CDs. And I had it with Fleet Bank. And I was prepared for 9/11. I knew something, whether it was, a conspiracy or whatever, and I knew something was, it was in USA Today. I wrote about it on December 14th, 2000. The headline read, 2001 won't be our year, Trends here says. And I gave a lot of the reasons why. So when it happened, immediately I went into action. I wasn't frozen by the event. And the first thing I did was I called the bank up and wanted my money wire transferred out from Fleet Bank to the Rhinebeck branch of my bank, because I was ready to head to Canada if they blew up the nuclear power plant at Indian Point, which is 40 miles north of Ground Zero. And they told me I couldn't get it out because CDs are financial instruments traded on Wall Street, and Wall Street's closed. So that was that story. And this time when there's a terror strike, I believe they're going to close the banks. And they'll call a bank holiday, and they'll devalue our currency even more, just as they did in 1933 when they repegged the price of gold from $20.62 an ounce to $35 an ounce. So in other words, it cost you 70% more to buy what you bought the day before. Then later on, when the financial crisis happened, I went to Key Bank. I wrote about it in the Trends Journal. I went back with the executive editor of the Trends Journal, John West, so I'd have a witness to this. They harassed me to withdraw $30,000 like you would not believe. And then the bank manager comes over to me, Lou, and said, I want to know what you want to do with this money. I said, what are you, out of your mind? How dare you ask me what I want to do with my money? They made me feel like I was robbing the bank. Here's my slogan, Trends Journal slogan for 2011. Break the chains. As long as you keep dealing with the chains, you'll never be free. Buy local and bank local. If everybody takes their money out of Chase, out of Wells Fargo, out of the Citigroup criminal banks, they'll break the banks. And the only way this country is going to survive, Lou, is if we go back to local. I don't want to be run by a multinational. So I believe that anybody that gets caught with their money in the bank if they have a bank holiday, they deserve what they get because they're not getting anything by keeping the money in the bank. Oh, it's for your protection. It's for your safety. Yeah, again, the nanny mentality. What do you have, all your jewelry in the bank? What do you take your money and you hide it someplace in your house? Where's a criminal going to walk in there and say, oh, I know where it is. It's in that paint can under the other 100 paint cans in the middle of a bunch of junk? You could hide it. Use your imagination. Why give them your money so they can loan it out and make more on it? They're not giving you anything back, and they'll take it from you in a split second.
Gerald, I can remember what happened to people in my family when the bank holiday was declared by Roosevelt in the Great Depression. And of course, all savings were in effect confiscated. People lost all the money they had in the bank. However, if you owed the bank anything, of course, you still had to pay your loan. So your obligations to the bank continued while the bank had no obligation to you or your property. In fact, their only obligation was to steal your property. Of course, the banks today are far more powerful than they were even in those days.
Exactly. Again, you look at the numbers. When I say fascism, I mean it. What do you have, 10 banks controlling 80% of the nation's assets? Who made this thing up? And we're supposed to say, oh, they're too big to fail, we need them? And look at this whole fiasco with this robo-signing, the foreclosure episode, where people are just fraudulently signing affidavits. And they come up again with that white shoe boy language. Robo-signing? How about criminal activity? If you or I did it, they'd have us in jail. But oh no, it was just, expedient. Yeah, quicker way to rob us, robo-signing, pay to play. That's another one, this guy Ratner the Rat over here in New York. He just got a settlement with the SEC for pay to play. In other words, you got to pay off somebody, bribe them, and so that you can get their state contract to invest their money. Pay to play. How about bribery and fraud? And what does he get? Oh, he can't do business with the government with brokers for 2 years, and he gets a fine. None of them go to jail, just like that guy Mazzillo from Countrywide. They get a fine. You can't do business for 2 years. But you steal something 3 times at a 7-Eleven. Oh, we got to break down here. We got to get tough on crime. 3 strikes, you're out. So that's what's going on, Lou. And again, anybody that believes their politicians deserves what they get, anybody that trusts their banksters, they deserve what they get.
Gerald Celente, thanks so much for coming on. And I want to urge everybody to take a look at the Trends Research Institute, Gerald's Journal, the Trends Journal. We'll link to everything on this with this podcast. And Gerald, thanks a million.
And thank you, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. You too.
You've been listening to The Lew Rockwell Show, produced by LewRockwell.com, the best-read libertarian website in the world. If you'd like to advertise on this podcast or on the website, email advertising@LewRockwell.com. And thanks for listening.